Hi there. Today's blog post is Devil is the Details, Slay the Best Laid Plans. And the categories are everything from the 14th Amendment to Yemen, including Civil War and French language and goldbacks, which are gold. Demos claims in her lawsuit that her weight-based denial of a ride is discrimination. Rapper and influencer Dajwa Blanding, known by her stage name Dank Demos, Detroit rapper, files lawsuit against Lyft for weight discrimination. Le rappeur de Detroit entend un procès contre Lyft pour discrimination liée au poids. Weight discrimination. What are the consequences of weight discrimination? Quelles sont les conséquences de la discrimination liée au poids? Advocates push for policies that establish a playing field free from discrimination. Les défenseurs plaident pour des politiques qui établissent un cadre exempt de discrimination. Principe de non-discrimination. L'UE s'emploie au moyen de ces politiques et initiatives à promouvoir l'égalité et à prévenir la discrimination dans la société. The worst case scenario is not being surrounded by people who pretend to be your friends, but rather it is trusting them. Invest your trust wisely. Scheme. A systematic plan of action. Synonym, plan. The Moor of Venice. Othello. Set in Venice and Cyprus, the Moorish military commander Othello is manipulated by his ensign, Lago, into suspecting his wife Desdemona of infidelity. Theodore Chasserio. Slaying dragons and battle plans. No wrench in the works for you. The best laid schemes of mice and men. Meaning and origin. However carefully you plan a particular undertaking, something nevertheless often goes wrong with it along the way. To throw a spanner in the works is to deliberately or otherwise cause disruption, to interfere with the smooth running of something. throw a spanner in the works. Throw or put a spanner in the works refers to the calamitous effects of throwing a spanner into the gears and pistons of an engine. The parliamentary debates of the New Zealand Parliament, 1932. Of course, every honourable member has a right to express his opinions, even of a critical nature, but I do not think we should expect them to help and not throw a spanner in the gears. Also of Mice and Men is a 1937 novella written by American author John Steinbeck. Steinbeck based the novella on his own experiences as a teenager working alongside migrant farm workers in the 1910s before the arrival of the Okies, whom he would describe in his novel, The Grapes of Wrath. The phrase, the best laid plans of mice and men, is what is known as a partial idiom, or in other words, an incomplete idiom. The full phrase is the best laid plans of mice and men can still go wrong. Of mice and men. A Veteran's Warning. Smedley Butler. Smedley Darlington Butler, July 30th, 1881 to June 21st, 1940, was a United States Marine Corps officer and writer. During his 34-year military career, he fought in the Philippine-American War, the Boxer Rebellion, the Mexican Revolution, World War I, and the Banana Wars. Double Medal of Honor recipient. The Double Medal of Honor recipient, Smedley Butler. I've got a few acres to sell you. Dirt cheap. James Howard Kunstler. This is my fan page of The Swamp is Beautiful. Drain the Swamp. A colossal racketeering operation. The putrid food chain. He's speaking of the graft. James describes the swampy nature of the 68.3 square miles that comprise our nation's capital, formerly the District of Columbia, but now swamp land, as in Florida. I've got a few acres to sell you, dirt cheap. Then there's Victoria Newland, born July 1st, 1961, an American diplomat who served as Under Secretary of State for Political Affairs from 2021 to year 2024. The term racketeering was coined by the Employers Association of Chicago in June 1927 in a statement about the influence of organized crime in the Teamsters Union. Draining the Swamp 2.0, the return of Trump. This content has been thoroughly fact-checked with enthusiasm. The minds who look better after you. The word enthusiasm originates from the Greek, from en as in and theos. Theos is God, meaning inspired or possessed by a God, applied by the Greeks to manifestations of divine possession by Apollo or by Dionysus. Let's face it, these gods get around. This is Robert Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions. The U.S. Civil War, aka the War of Secession. When interpreting the law, it's important to consider the context and what the purpose of the law was. The 14th Amendment, in part to establish that former slaves and their children were to be legally considered citizens of the U.S. These were persons subject to a given jurisdiction. Although the 14th Amendment was intended to protect the rights of formerly enslaved people, it has continued to play a major role in constitutional politics to this day. This website is constitutioncenter.org. On July 9th, 1868, Louisiana and South Carolina voted to ratify the amendment after they had rejected it a year earlier. The votes made the 14th Amendment officially part of the Constitution. But in the ensuing years, the Supreme Court was slow to decide how the new and old rights guaranteed under the federal Constitution applied to the states. In the early Supreme Court decisions about the 14th Amendment, the court often ruled in favor of limiting the incorporation of these rights on a state and local level. But starting in the 1920s, the court embraced the application of due process and equal protection, despite state laws that conflicted with the 14th Amendment. Here is a look at 10 famous court decisions that show the progression of the 14th Amendment from Reconstruction to the era of affirmative action. The Slaughterhouse Case, April 14, 1873. Plessy versus Ferguson, May 18, 1896. Lochner v. New York, April 17, 1905. Gitlow v. New York, June 8, 1925. Brown v. Board of Education, May 17th, 1954. Mapp v. Ohio, June 19th, 1961. Gideon v. Wainwright, March 18th, 1963. Griswold v. Connecticut, June 7th, 1965. Loving v. Virginia, June 12th, 1967. Regents of the University of California v. Back, June 26, 1978.